All right, so good afternoon, or should I even be saying good morning, good evening, depending on which part of the world that you're joining us from. Welcome to another edition of Ask the Candidates with Iso Bassey. This event is brought to you by the Cross River Movement in collaboration with some partners that I would be mentioning. So the Ask the Candidates event is an interactive session with the governorship candidates of different political parties. So the candidates vying for the position of governor of Cross River State. And the idea behind the Ask the Candidate interactive sessions is to give Cross Riverians and lovers of Cross River State an opportunity to engage with and put questions directly to candidates vying for the position of governor. So as I said earlier, this event is brought to you by the Cross River Movement in partnership with the Africa Leadership Group, the Calabar Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, the Cross River Economic Summit Organization, and it is being streamed to you live on Hit FM. And that's courtesy of Quick School Manager and some well-meaning Cross Riverians who prefer not to be mentioned, not named. Before we want to introduce our candidate for today, I think I will just go over some housekeeping rules. So first of all, the chat facility on this Zoom platform has been disabled intentionally. So what we would like you to do, so we gave people the opportunity to submit questions in advance, and a lot of people did that. But what we're also doing is giving you the ability to submit questions as the interactive session is in progress. So the link to do that is going to be posted in the chat here. So please use that link, click on it, visit that site and just type in your question there. We'll be monitoring that platform throughout the interactive session, and we'll be taking questions directly from there and putting them across to the candidate. All right, so for those who are listening on radio, Hit FM, you can ask questions. So I'm going to read out I'll call out a telephone number shortly, and you can send your question by text or by WhatsApp to that number. Please don't call the number. If you call it, nobody's going to pick it up. So please send your question by either text message or by WhatsApp. And the number is 0909 594 2401. So I'll repeat that, is 0909 594 2401. And yeah, so please, if you have a question, you're listening on the radio, put your question across via either WhatsApp or SMS, once again to 0909 594 2401, and would endeavor to put your question to the candidate. All right, so we will dedicate the last 10 to 15 minutes of this interactive session to taking questions from people who are present on the Zoom meeting. So if you would like to put a question to the candidate, when that time comes, you can use the reactions icon that Zoom provides to just indicate to us that you'd like to put a question at the candidate, and would give you the opportunity to do so. All right. And yeah, when you have the opportunity to ask a question, would like to know your name, perhaps the organization that you represent, and then keep your question short, straight to the point. And we'll also encourage the candidate, to keep his answers, direct, try and address the questions that are put to him, so that we can get the most out of this session. We also, during the course of the interactive session, we'll be running some polls. So you might see some questions popping up every now and again. You're encouraged, please, to just answer those questions, as they help to give us a feel for the opinions of people who are attending these interactive sessions. Also, just to mention our YouTube channel, the link is going to be posted in the chat as well. If you haven't subscribed to the Cross River Movement YouTube channel, you're encouraged to do so. And would love it if you can do that before the end of this interactive session. Okay. So I'll go ahead and introduce our candidate for today. His name is Mr. Efiom Okokon, and he's an indigene of Akpabuyo local government area of Cross River State. His experience spans the private, public, and civic spaces, and he's been involved in banking, in the banking industry, oil and gas, and various philanthropic endeavors. He's the founder of the Efiom Okokon Foundation, which has 4 thematic areas: community health, youth empowerment, education, and support for at-risk families. So his work with the foundation has seen him travel the length and breadth of the state, working with young people and people generally from across the state. The foundation has an annual quiz competition, which it holds for primary and secondary school students, and this has impacted directly on the lives of young people in Cross River State. His decision to run for the governorship of Cross River State is born out of a desire to serve and a firm belief in the fact that Cross River State needs a young person of value who can deliver, who has a delivery plan for our state. His manifesto for Cross River State is encapsulated in the acronym HEARTS. H stands for health, E for education, A for agriculture, R for rural transformation, T for tourism, S for security. So he's the gubernatorial candidate on the platform of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, in the 2023 elections. So please join me in welcoming Comrade Efiom Okokon. All right. So Comrade, before we go into the interactive session, I'm going to ask for Mr. Bobby Udo, who's a nation building evangelist, the author of books on nation building, to give us a few, give us a brief opening remark before we actually go on into the interactive session. Mr. Bobby Udo.
Thank you so much, my friend and brother, Iso. I guess I have to say Iso Bassey. So thanks for this opportunity, you and the Cross River movement. So we are here again, the second in the series, Ask the Candidates. Last time we had on the seat the gubernatorial candidate for the PDP, People Democratic Party. So just to share a few things, I think it's always important for us to remember that in our 62 years of independence as a nation, and this is the first time we're having 23 years of uninterrupted democracy. Some like to argue that we're not in a democracy. The reality is that we are. So we have had 6 general elections in 99, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015. The last was 2019. It's important to take this on board so that we can celebrate. This is the longest we've had a democracy without interruption. And in that time, there has been some improvement. We have seen a rise at every election cycle, a deep discontent by the citizens being expressed openly. And over that period from 99, we're seeing people express not just the generic, we're becoming more specific about our needs. We're also recognizing the fact that in this 23 years plus, we're seeing greater involvement. It may not be obvious to many, but we're seeing more involvement in political parties beyond the major ones, the PDPs. We're seeing the evolution of some political parties evolving into other parties. We're seeing many Nigerians put their hard-earned resources to register political parties, to establish political platforms. We're seeing the campaigns move beyond just a few people. More people get involved in the campaign process. It's not obvious to many, but in my nation building work, every election cycle, I see a lot of Nigerians behind the scene. Some people give up their expertise, some give up their resources, their equipment, laptop, their vehicle, they're building their offices as campaign office. So I say this to enable us understand that there's commitment going on and this democracy is making progress. If we're not carrying a positive or optimistic mindset, then for every little hiccup or setback, we will give up easily. However, despite seeing this increase in our democracy, and yet people say our elections haven't really improved. We haven't seen better candidates. I say that this particular election is beginning to counter that notion. We're seeing better candidates emerge. We're seeing a new electoral act come out that should be celebrated. The Electoral Act 2022, which was passed by the National Assembly this year. A lot of reforms are taking place that should be celebrated. We're seeing not just better candidates, we're seeing more organization, slightly moving from small scale to medium, and in some ways, national scale, organization by citizens who are backing a candidate. We're seeing the diasporans get involved, not just putting in money, but providing expertise, especially from those who are in advanced democracy, sharing best practices with the people back home. Some are traveling back home. So this is all said to give us enthusiasm for this coming election. However, one thing or two things are still missing. One is that the voting numbers haven't improved in our elections, and that's something we want to nail this time. And so in order for us to see a greater number of people, many of whom have registered, many of whom have collected their PVC, to go beyond having a PVC and seeing the election days as a day off to chill out, is to go out and actually vote. And so to support that, you and I who are on this platform have a task to mobilize people first to know the type of candidates, what qualities they should be looking for, which is political education, but also mobilizing people on the day. So our task is not just to get our PVCs and go to the polling unit. In any democracy, I lived several years in the UK, a lot of work is done by a minority to get the majority to do what the majority is meant to do. So you and I have a task and should make the commitment the few days in February, mobilize and find creative ways to get people to come out of their houses and vote right. And between now and then, to help also educate people so you understand what is the presidential candidate's responsibility, what is that of the governorship candidate, so that when you are posing questions, you know who is responsible for the public primary schools. If it is not the president, so you know where to direct your queries to. So that's my opening remarks. Social media is an effective tool for us to use, but to use wisely and help counter the fake news out there. So as we go on to listen to the SDP candidate, let us have in mind that all the people that will come and share, or the candidates that will share their ideas, we have a responsibility to clarify both here and outside here what their true plans are and the personality behind the candidates, so we can go and evangelize to our people, Cross Riverians in Cross River, in the rest of Nigeria and diaspora, who we believe would deliver better governance. Thank you very much, and let's have a great session.
Bobby Udo, thank you very much. As always, we at the Cross River Movement really appreciate you. Thank you very much for those brief introductory remarks. Right, so I think we're going to jump straight in, just to once again say that we're live on Hit FM, and this is brought to you courtesy of Quick School Manager, which is software for managing schools designed for nursery, primary, and secondary schools. If you're interested, the website to visit would be www.qschoolmanager.com. So that's www.qschoolmanager.com. It's also brought to you by some well-meaning Cross Riverians who prefer to remain anonymous, but we're grateful to them nonetheless. All right, so welcome, those coming in on radio. Once again, I would say if you have a question that you'd like to ask, the telephone number is 0909 594 2401. Please don't call the number. You can send a text message or send a WhatsApp message to the number, and we will put your question to the candidate. For everyone else who's on the Zoom conversation, the link is there in the chat, so please click on it if you have a question to ask. Submit your question there, and I think that link will be shared on Facebook as well. All right, thanks very much. Okay, comrade, so it's a pleasure to have you on this interactive session. Thanks very much for honoring our invitation. I think the first question I would like to ask you is, who is Comrade Efiom Okokon? So last week we had a fortnight ago, we had the candidate for the People's Democratic Party. Of course, he's, a senator, the former commissioner, former local government chairman, perhaps didn't need that much of an introduction. It's no, disrespect whatsoever, but who is Efiom Okokon? If you can just please share that with us, as quite a few people may not know.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bassey, and I want to appreciate your team for putting this up, because one of the conversations we've been having over time is how we can get people to be involved in the elections. And it's not just voting who is popular, it's about voting who is bringing value to the table. So it's not about whether you've known the person from 1999 to now, it's about what is this person bringing, because where Nigeria is, and Cross River State in particular, is at this time, we need something drastic to happen, not just the same things that we've been doing over the years. Yeah, democracy has been here for 22 years now. So if we are still here, that means we are doing something wrong. So to the question of who Efiom Okokon is, like you said in your opening remarks while you were trying to read out my biography, my name is Efiom Okokon. I'm an indigenous of Cross River State, Akwa local government to be precise. I started work in Cross River State there way back in 2003 with the Zenith Bank. We were the ones that started that bank brand in Cross River State. Then I moved to Abuja to work with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. That was my experience in the public sector, and then we have, like you also said, we have an organization, that's a foundation called the Efiom Okokon Foundation, where we actually work with at-risk people. We also intervene in education, community health. So these are the things that we've been doing over time. And that's who I've been, because that has made me to interact with the people directly. Like when we are doing things for health, we go down to the primary healthcare facilities to find out what the issues with those facilities are, why the people are not using that. When we are doing things with education, and this was outside government, when we're doing things with education, we know where the challenges are, where the gaps are. So that is me coming from a public sector experience, a private sector experience, and also operating in the civil space. So that has given me a more rounded vision of what the issues are and possible solutions to these things. Because what you're looking for in a candidate is not just coming to reel out what the problems are. If you ask the person on the street, everybody knows what the problems are, but what solutions are you bringing? Now, that's the value that you're going to ask. So that is me in a nutshell. Someone that has public experience, has private sector experience, has worked with the philanthropic part of things, and also has the passion for Cross River State. So that's who Efiom Okokon is, and that is why I'm putting my hat in the ring for the Cross River State Governorship election next year.
Okay, comrade, thanks very much. Part of your bio says that your decision to run for the governorship of Cross River State is born out of a desire to serve and a firm belief in the fact that Cross River State needs a young person of value. So you've put this out there. So the question I would like to ask you is, how old are you? And what is the value? So you know, there are two things. One is a young person of value. So how old are you, and what is the value that you are bringing? What value would you bring to Cross River State as governor?
Okay, let me start with the value before I go to the age. The value is this. A lot of people come to you and tell you, we are going to do this, we are going to do that, without the details. Like you read out, I don't like saying my, because it's a team, you know. So what we are bringing to Cross River State is what is encapsulated in what we call the HEARTS project. And what's this HEARTS project all about is the health, the education, the agriculture, the rural transformation, the tourism, and the security. What we want to do about our health. These things are not just things that we talk about because we want to sound, you know, intelligent for people. I personally have had to lose people because of the death of medical care. You know, just recently, somebody in my team, my campaign team, died. Why? Because the primary healthcare center where he was rushed to for first responder, first aid treatment was not functional, and he had to die. So that's something that we are passionate about. So what are we going to do? We are going to revamp the health sector. We are going to make sure that the primary healthcare centers are working, because we understand and we know that 70% of our health challenges in Cross River State are primary healthcare in nature. Yes, we have people that need the secondary healthcare, but if that primary healthcare is taking care of the malaria, the dysentery, the infant mortality, these things will, you know, translate to fewer secondary issues and tertiary issues. And once that is done, we are going to have a healthy Cross River State. And you all know that when you have a healthy Cross River State, what that will translate to is a healthy workforce. Our education, people just pay lip service to education and just talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. You don't need to cram, because what we have now in Nigeria and in Africa generally, but let's talk about Cross River, is that we have students, you know, that are forced to cram things, you know, and pass. They tell you, oh, our school made all A's. We had 99% pass in this thing, but how relevant is that education? That's the issue that we are talking about. So we are going to revamp the curriculum. We are going to overhaul it so that our students are going to have relevant education by a curriculum that is relevant to the things that are happening in the 21st century world. Then we are going to make sure that this education is also available and accessible to our students. How are we going to do this? We are going to ensure that from our primary school, because the foundation is where the key is. And like I told you, our foundation, my foundation, while we were working, we worked with young students, and we realized that Cross River State has a lot of intelligent students. But the issue is that they do not have access. How do you have access? It's for government to provide funding to that sector, give out scholarships for our tertiary institutions. And also, one thing we do not do in education in Nigeria and in Cross River is that we do not give fellowships. We do not fund research. And there's no country that can go on and succeed in the 21st century with the population that is going to be cramming and giving you back things. On our agriculture, a lot of people also talk about agriculture, but I'm a farmer, so I understand it. When people tell you that, oh, we have 90% or 70% arable land, they talk as if the seedlings are free. They talk as if the fertilizer is free. These things are not free. So farmers need funding. That is why we have a cycle of subsistence farmers that do not make money. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to look into the farming agricultural sector, ensure that we have extension services that are going to teach our farmers how to, use the best seedlings and crop rotation to ensure that they get the best yields. And when you have these yields, what's going to happen? People always try to exploit the farmers. Why are they exploiting the farmers? Because they know that their produce is perishable, because the government does not have a produce board. The government needs to have a produce board whereby we can take offtake from the farmers at an economic price. So those things that they cannot store, the government stores and moves it out. So when you do that, you are sure that farmers will go to the farm because they know that there's an economic price that the government is going to give to them when they farm. Not just that you now go, because it's farming season, once they harvest, people just go there and say, if you're not going to sell now, your yam is going to, get spoiled and all that. So that is what we are going to do. And in the rural transformation, people do not need to come to Calabar, to live. If you take the governance to the people, and how are we going to do this? We are going to ensure that we are going to have infrastructure in all the 18 local governments of Cross River State. They are going to have farm to market roads, because a lot of people, in Nigeria now, once you do a road, whether people need that road or not, they clap for you as a governor. But what we are going to do is that we are going to build infrastructure around the people. Somebody in my local government in Akpabio does not need a 12-lane highway just so that I can beat my chest and say, when I was governor, I put a 12-lane highway in Akpabio local government. No. But what do they need? They need roads that will go to the interior to get their produce, their cocoa, their palm out of the farm down to the market. That's what we are going to do. We are going to ensure that their schools are functional, their primary healthcare is functional. So they don't need to come to the city, to the state capital for them to live. People would rather live in the villages close to their people and have access to good governance. And when we are talking about tourism, everybody talks about Cross River, Cross River. But what do they know about Cross River? It's the carnival. Why? We need more from Cross River than just December. So we have a plan that is called the 12 months of tourism, whereby every month in Cross River State, we are going to have something that is going to bring people to Cross River State, because we know from our experience that Cross River State, in Cross River State, tourism employs more young people than any other sector. That cannot be debated, because we have the people that are going to be the makeup artists when people come in, the hotel, the hospitality business is going to thrive, people that are into fashion and everything will also thrive. So these are the things we are going to do in tourism. And we have a lot of natural beauty, beautiful spots in Cross River State that nothing is being done with. The Agbokum waterfalls, we make zero revenue from there. The Kwa Falls, we make zero revenue from there. Even the cattle ranch that used to be our piece de resistance, we still make almost zero revenue from there, because it's dead. People hear about Cross River and say, oh, the Tinapa, I'm coming to Tinapa. But when they come, they are disappointed. Why? Because everything in Cross River State is dead. So that is why tourism is key in our hearts project. Then the S in our hearts is the security. We all know that with these beautiful plants, if the people are not secure, nothing is going to work. Like I told you, I'm a farmer. That's what I do. I have not been to my farm in 2 years. Why? Because it's not secure. You don't want to go to the farm trying to take a living from your land, and somebody kidnaps you and asks you for $1 million, which you don't have. So when you do that, and people are wondering why food prices are going up, it's because there's no security. So how are we going to do the security? How are we going to answer the security question? This is what we are going to do. What we are going to do is that we are going to start from first principles, because when you go to the villages, the clans, the village chief is the chief security officer. But what happens is that we leave them, to just stay there. And if you are someone that goes to the villages, you know that you cannot go to a village without them carrying you to the village head. So why don't we harness what we already have? Put the village head as the chief security officers into small committees. So from the clans, it moves to the villages. From the villages, it moves to the local government. From the local government to the senatorial zone, and we cascade it up that way till we get to the state. That is what we are going to do. Everybody is going to be a part of this security, because when we say security is everybody's business, what you need to do is to empower the people. If you do not empower the people, then you are just wasting your time. You are just going to talk. So when people talk about you're a young person, I'm not a youth, I'm a young person. I'm 42. So it's only in Nigeria because we have men that are 61, 70, that are supposed to be retired and giving us advice, still running. That's why you see somebody that is 45 feeling that he's a young person or is a youth. No, according to the UN, the youthful age is from 0 to 34. So anybody above 34 is no longer a youth, is a young person, and even from the young person, once you start getting to 47, you are no longer a young person. So what we are saying is we do not need the same people that have been running the system. People come, they ask me, oh, but have you been a local government chairman? No, these are the people that have been running the system since 1999. And if you are still here, what do they want to do that they couldn't do in 22 years? So this election next year is a referendum, and it goes across party lines. It's not just about, Social Democratic Party, he's in PDP. No, this is a referendum for the survival of the Cross River, and that is why we're in this race. So what I tell people is the Hearts Project is key because, like even in the human anatomy, once your heart is out of it, you are dead. So that's why we are bringing the Hearts Project to Cross River so that we can make Cross River work again for the good of everybody in the state. Thank you.
Okay, Comrade Efiom Okokon, thank you very much. So for those who are joining us on the radio, this is Ask the Candidates with Iso Bassey, organized by the Cross River Movement. And today we have the SDP governorship candidate on the session, Comrade Efiom Okokon. All right, Comrade, so you've reeled out your plans for Cross River State, encapsulated within the Hearts acronym. Sounds great, sounds quite lofty. My question to you now is, considering the financial state in which Cross River State is, how do you intend to achieve such lofty plans with a state whose finances are pretty much on life support, for want of a better way of putting it?
Yeah, when people, before you go into this kind of endeavor, like the gubernatorial race, you need to understand the assets of the state and the liabilities. And one of the liabilities that everybody knows is that Cross River State is a heavily indebted state, one of the highest in the country. But are we going to say because we're indebted, nobody will enter and nothing will be done? No. So what we're going to do is that we are going to bring in the private sector. Most of our projects for now are going to be public-private partnerships. We need to bring in the private sector so that people can come in with their wealth. And how do you make people come in with their wealth? People come in when they trust your fiscal responsibility. Nobody will bring his money to a government that is the same of the old system, where you just get money, collect loans, and waste it. So what we are going to do, most of our projects are going to be public-private partnerships. That yes, even though Cross River State does not have money, but there are some tiny things that we don't need these loans for, like renovating your schools. If you are not planning to steal money, there's money for that, And again, what we are going to do is to ensure that every revenue for the state gets to the state. Because what we have now is a plethora of people coming up, collecting money. Sometimes the state government does not even know what is due to it. Cross River State is blessed with mineral resources. Is it limestone? We even have lithium. You heard about the Tesla thing, that Tesla wanted to come and mine lithium in Nigeria, but the federal government said you have to open a factory here. One of the 7 states with lithium is Cross River State. So we have a lot of resources. The tourism is there, everything is there. So what we are going to do is, apart from the fact that we are going to cut down government spending, wastage, not cut down government spending, we are going to cut down wastage in governance. We are also going to bring in the private sector to partner with us in most of our developmental projects and plans. then we are going to ensure that we are fiscally responsible. So that's how we're going to do it. Then if we sit down and do all these things and the foreign direct investment comes, we also use that properly. If we see that we need a loan for that, for some things to be done, of course we'll take the loan, because there's nothing wrong in taking a loan. But the problem in taking loans is, what are you taking that loan for? So that's what we are going to do. We are going to ensure that we cut down on spending, wasteful spending, increase the revenue base of the government, and ensure that we bring in the private sector into it. And how do you bring in the private sector? You are going to be fiscally responsible. So that's what we're going to do, sir.
Okay, thanks very much. So your manifesto, Hearts, it's quite, again, quite elaborate, quite lengthy. My question to you then would be, what do you consider to be the 3 highest priorities for Cross River State? And how do you, that's probably encapsulated, you may have talked about a bit of that, but I want to just put this question directly about the top 3 priorities you consider to be the highest for the state, and how you intend to go about addressing those, and what sort of benefit you believe will come out of such interventions.
I give you 6 because when we sat down, we said these 6 areas need, serious intervention. But since you are limiting us to 3, the first one for me.
So it's a case of prioritizing amongst the 6.
The first one for me is going to be education, because your human resource is your best resource. You can bring in all the computers, all the technology. If your human resource is not well trained, then you are going to waste your time in doing all that. So the first one for us is education. And what are we going to do in education? We are going to ensure that our schools are modernized. How are you going to modernize your schools? If you go to the schools in Cross River State, you'll be shocked that in some schools, people still sit on the floor. The roofs are leaking. Those are basic things, the low-hanging fruits. We are going to ensure that things are done properly. Then we are going to overhaul the curriculum. We are tired of our children cramming to pass. When they cram and pass, the thinking faculty of the kid is not there, because what they do is just the X, the Y is this, and they cram it, they pass. They don't understand the whys of it. So we are going to ensure that our children are made to be critical thinkers. And there's something we want to do, the vocational education part of it, because there are some people that do not want to go through the formal education. Our vocational schools are also going to come up. You want to be a carpenter, then be the best carpenter in the world. So we are going to give you a training to be a great carpenter. You want to be a fashion designer, be a great fashion designer. So we are going to have vocational schools that will also train our young people in cake making, the economics of all these things. Then what we are going to also do is to ensure that at the secondary level, we are going to ensure that our children are given real world skills that are relevant to today. IT skills, tech, everybody is doing coding now. So why can't our children, be given training that by the time they are done with school, the average Cross Riverian student is going to be able to say, I can design a website, I can code, I can write codes and all that, so that they have, because whether we like it or not, and I want to bring this in, the ASU question, the problem with ASU in Nigeria is that Nigeria does not want to accept the fact that university education is not cheap. University education is quite expensive. Check it world over. You're in the UK, check it, they're expensive. So why would Nigerians be ready to pay through their noses to go and study in the UK, but they cannot pay in Nigeria? There's some things that we need to, get right. Proper funding of the university cannot be done by the government alone. So what I'm trying to say is that by the time our students leave their secondary school level, not everybody wants to go to the university or can afford it, but they should be able to have a skill, a real world skill that can be used to survive. So when they are ready or they have the funding, they can go to the university. And like I also said, we also, sorry, something came up. Do I have my PVC? Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's a poll. So we're running polls during the course of this interactive session. So please don't let it distract you. Just carry on.
Okay. So we are also going to fund research, because I don't see governments, previous present talking about, I'm going to give a professor this money to give me a solution on Lassa fever. I want, to give me a homegrown solution on malaria. Why? Because we don't see education like that. So like I said, education is first priority for us. Health, we also need a healthy state, because if our people are not healthy, no matter what we do, we are going to spend it on treatment. So we are going to do the preventive health thing. So don't even fall sick. We will do the preventive medicine. We'll prioritize preventive medicine, and we are going to ensure that all our facilities are up to speed. We are also going to give scholarships. This is all the HEART project, everything ties in, because the agriculture is going to feed the children in the schools. The health funding is going to also ensure that our children are healthy. Then we are also going to ensure that we give scholarships to our children, because you don't have this scholarship thing going on in Cross River right now. If there is, I'm not aware. Even if I'm not aware, that means maybe it's not really going on. But we need to give scholarships to our children and ensure that these people come and add value to our own state, because people do this. So that's what we are going to do in the health sector. We are going to ensure that our facilities are up to speed, and we also make sure that the people working in the health sector are paid properly and appropriately for the services they provide. Then the third one for me is tourism. Now, it's a tight thing. When you tell me to prioritize it, it's a tight thing, because if you go to Florida, you go to Dubai, all these places, they make most of their money from tourism. There was a time during the years of our former governor, Donald Duke, Cross River State was actually listed as top 20 destinations in the world for holidays because of the carnival and all that. But now we are not even mentioned at all.
In the world.
Yeah. I was going through that period. There was a time we used to have like 4 or 5 airlines come to Calabar. But now, how many? Ibom, because Ibom is close to us, and Arik wants to be Air Peace wants to be the national airline, and that's it. Because you cannot force airlines to fly empty aircrafts down here, because nothing is happening. So when our tourism sector is revamped and revitalized, these things will naturally happen. Airlines will now find out that there's a business to be made in Cross River State, and they'll start coming here. So those are the three: education, health, and tourism.
Okay, thanks very much. So we've got some questions coming in live. So there's one from Mr. David Etim. He says, what is your understanding of the AFCFTA, which I believe stands for the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and how do you think Cross River State can benefit from it?
Well, how Cross River State can benefit from, these things are more of a national, a nation-to-nation thing, Now, how Cross River State can benefit from it is basically we need to add value to everything that comes out of here, because if you are not exporting anything, you are not going to make any impact. People, that's why you find out that Nigeria, we have a trade deficit, because we do not export. And you cannot force people to take substandard things. So that's one of the things that we are going to do in Cross River. We want to add value to our products. We have cocoa in Cross River State, high cocoa income, but are we making any money from it? Why? Are we going to treat it like the crude oil? The crude oil where we take our barrels of oil and export it maybe at $100 at the best. Then we now import products worth $2,500. We import your tires, you import your petrol, you import your diesel, because we do not add value to it. And you wonder why Nigeria is where it is. So what we are going to do in Cross River State, we are going to ensure that we add value. And adding value to our products, to our exports, is to ensure that the government supports the private sector. We have the EPZ. What are they producing there? Is the government even interested in that? Because you cannot say that the free trade, what are you trading? Let's bring it down to everybody's level. If you are not producing anything for export, you cannot take advantage of that. So the only way Cross River State and Nigeria as a whole can take advantage of the free trade agreement is to ensure that we are actually producing something that we are going to send to other countries. So what we are going to do is to ensure that we add value to all the products that are in Cross River State, industrialize Cross River, but don't just do it blindly. Have a systematic approach in the industrialization of Cross River State. Check out the things that we can actually do, the quick wins. Our palm oil, is there value to it? We just eat most of our palm oil, but we know that palm oil is used in pharmaceuticals. Palm oil is used in the cosmetic industry. So why can we not do something to make sure that our palm oil is exported for these things instead of just consuming them? So that's the only way we can take advantage of the African Free Trade Agreement to ensure that we produce things that are export quality.
Okay, Comrade, thanks very much. So, so if you're joining us on radio, on Hit FM, this is Ask the Candidate, organized by the Cross River Movement in collaboration with the Calabar Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, the Africa Leadership Group, the Cross River Economic Summit Organization, and a host of other partners. And today on the interactive session, we have the Social Democratic Party candidate for the governorship of Cross River State, Comrade Efiom Okokon. All right, so a lot of questions are coming in online, so that's really fantastic. But Comrade, before I jump into one of the questions there, you mentioned industrialization. There are some who would argue that, that's been the focus of the current administration, and the governor beats his chest and says he has industrialized the state. What is your view on this administration's industrialization?
Wow, this question has been asked to me on various fora, and I want to say that the idea of industrializing Cross River State is good, but the issue is there value to what you are doing? How many of those companies are actually functioning at an economic level? Not just, I built this so that my name will be, I can put it in my annals as something that I've done. But what I see is that most of those companies are not fit for purpose. They are actually not operating optimally. So what we are going to do is to ensure when we come in, because there's a problem that most Nigerian states have, and that's continuity. And I always tell people, just because you are not in the same party with the government that is going out doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue on the laudable projects. Industrialization of Cross River is great. It's a great idea. So when we come in, what we are going to do is we're going to look at all the industries that have been set up by this regime, this present regime, see the ones that are viable, the ones that are not viable, the ones that we can add some little value to make viable, and, just continue in that aspect. Because I see things like the garment factory, it makes a lot of sense, so why is it not working at optimum level? So what we are going to do is to look at what this government has put in place. If it's something that has to continue, we continue. If it's something that is not adding value, of course, we take the best economic decision, because at the end of the day, whatever decision we take should be for the good of the Cross Riverian, not for our own personal egos. So that's what we are going to do.
Okay, what would be your view on government's involvement in such enterprises? So you said, for instance, the garment factory. So you look at it and you think, okay, we can add a little value can be added here and there to scale it up and maybe make it more productive. What is your view in terms of government's direct involvement in running facilities like that, as opposed to full private sector management?
There are a lot of people that always argue that government has no business in business, but that's not. I don't buy into that, because we have the Saudi Aramcos that are fully government owned, and they are operating like a well-oiled machine. In fact, it's the biggest oil company in the world. Then we have a Petrobras, Petronas in Brazil, in Norway. These are government-owned companies. So the only problem there is government interference in these companies. Just because I'm the governor and it's a government company does not mean that I should employ people that are mediocre to run this. So, because even if it's a private sector run company, if mediocres are the people running it, the result is going to be the same. It's just like if you, sir, you have a company and you want to employ your siblings in the company because it's your company, and you find out that your siblings do not have the prerequisite skills and you still put them there, that company is going to run aground. So that's also the same thing. But like I said, government can actually do business like the private sector, but government also needs to realize where its capacity ends so that it can now partner with the private sector. We cannot sell all our enterprises because we claim that government does not have any business in business. No, what we are going to do is to see the parts where we do not have the expertise. There's a joint venture program we can actually run, to ensure that maybe government has 45% and a private sector firm that has the expertise has 55%, and they will be the ones to operate it, because you need to understand that as a government, you also owe your people security, economic security. You do not want to give all the economic resources in your state to private hands so that these people can actually, let me give you a typical example. Remember when cement prices were really high? Because Dangote was the only person that was the king of cement back then. He just came in and said, you know what, we are going to reduce the price, and he can increase the price, and government has no say in it. Even now, the government has realized that you cannot actually give a private sector person so much power, and the government has nothing. So even the Dangote refineries that you are seeing that is going to be wonderful, the government had to go and take a stake in it so that one man cannot control the fortunes of the state. So that's my own view of these things. Yes, private sector is good, but I only see private sector as a partner to the government. If you leave the private sector to run all your economic structures, then what is the government going to do? If this private sector people say, okay, this is what we want, and if you don't give it to us, we'll turn off the tap. So the government has to also be, so the only thing we owe to our people as Cross Riverians is to ensure that the people that the government is going to put out there in those partnerships, the joint venture partnerships, the build and operate transfer arrangements, are going to be our best. You do not put people that are your worst 11 to play your match. So what the government is going to do is to ensure that Cross Riverians that are, well, read and have the capacity to deliver value are the ones that will be running these institutions on the government's behalf. And no nepotism. No, we are not going to do it as a party favor or as politicians do. We are going to ensure that technocrats run these companies, and if they are not running it as they are meant to run, then they get sacked and someone else comes to run it. So that's what we are going to do. We will partner with the private sector, but we are not going to hands off totally and leave the private sector to run our economy. That's not what we're going to do.
Okay, but what would be your response to those people who are of the school of thought that the economy really should be private sector driven? And if there's government intervention in, say, a garment factory, for instance, why would I, as a solely private entity, come to invest in a garment factory that would be a competitor to the one that the government has an interest in, knowing that perhaps government policies or whatever would, favor the one that government has an interest in? So my question to you is, don't you think that government involvement would be counterproductive to actually growing the economy and allowing the private sector to really contribute to the development of the state?
As a government, your sole responsibility is to the people of Cross River State.
Yeah, but you could argue that, provide security, provide the right regulatory framework, and then allow business.
No. That's what I'm saying. I just started. Your first responsibility is to the people of Cross River State. So what I'm trying to say is this: you are not going to make laws that will, stifle the private sector, because no matter what I do, even if government runs 100% of the companies in Cross River State, they cannot employ people. They cannot employ this thing. So we always need the private sector. So what I'm trying to say is that the laws that we make will ensure and engender, private sector participation in our economy. Because if the government makes laws that are anti-private sector, that's detrimental to us. That's why I was in one of my interviews, I said that we are going to look at the whole tax regime why are companies leaving Cross River State? We are overtaxing these companies, and that's a problem. People always feel that, governments always feel that if you overtax the companies, you are going to get more money. But that's in the short term. In the long term, what happens is that these companies run and leave your country or your state. And that tax revenue you thought you were going to get, you won't get it. So what the government is going to do is to ensure that we have an enabling environment for private sector to thrive, ease of doing business in Cross River State. That's one of the things that Ogun State is doing to take companies away from Lagos State. Most companies are moving to Songo Ota and, the outskirts of Ogun State because of their tax regime is less, less tedious than that of Lagos. So they have proximity to Lagos, but they are not in Lagos. So what we are going to do, Cross River State has this beautiful geolocation that it is in the Niger Delta and it is relatively peaceful. So why we even have a natural seaport? So why is it that we are now using our own tax regime to chase our companies out? So what we are going to do as a government is to ensure that we have policies that will make our private sector people come in and thrive in Cross River State. We want a situation where people will come to Cross River State from other neighboring states and come and sit here and run their operations from here. That's what we want to do. That's why we are saying that we would rather reduce the tax and have 10 companies pay little taxes and employ more people than increase taxes in the bid to get revenue and have all companies run away and just have one big company. So that's our economic direction.
Okay, comrade, thanks very much. So my request now, because I'm conscious of the fact that we just have a little over half an hour left and would like to put as many questions to you as possible. So we'll keep the answer short and sweet. I'm delighted to have a question coming from the radio. This person has sent 3, but I will ask you 2 of them. One of them
I like the fact that Cross Riverians are interested in what's going on in their state. That shows that we are doing something right.
Absolutely. And this message is actually coming from someone in Yala. So the first question is, how do you intend to create jobs for young Cross Riverians? That's one. And then the third question is, the person says, people are complaining that you don't take calls. What do you have to say about that? So if you can address those 2 questions quickly, and then we'll jump on to Slido and take other questions coming in. But sorry, before you do, let me just also state we're streaming live on Hit FM. So if you're listening in on Hit FM and you would like to send in a question, just like the gentleman from Yala has done, the telephone number is 0909 594 2401. I'll repeat that one more time. It's 0909 594 2401. And please don't call the number. You can send a text, send your question by text or by WhatsApp. All right, comrade, over to you, sir.
All right, so this person that is saying I don't take calls, I think I know where the person is coming from. Don't worry, I'll take your calls, no problem. I'll take your calls. So on the jobs, on the jobs, how are we going to create jobs? Jobs are not created magically. So when people come and they tell me that, oh, my manifesto is that we are going to create 100,000 jobs, that's, voodoo economics. Jobs are created by good policies. If our tourism sector is brought up to speed, that will bring jobs to the people. If our agricultural sector is funded, seedlings are given to the farmers and they are sure that their products are going to be taken off them by the government or given to them at an economic price, that will encourage people to get into the farms and farm. That's how jobs are created. So don't let anybody come to you and tell you, hey, when I come in, we are going to create 100,000 jobs. That's the normal thing politicians say. Actually, look, what you should do as a Cross Riverian is to look at his policies. If this person is telling me that he's going to, change our curriculum, is going to ensure that the facilities and the infrastructure of our schools are, revamped, that's going to create jobs for the carpenter, That's going to create jobs for the painter. That's going to create jobs for the man that sells cement. You know, if somebody is telling you that he's going to ensure that the health sector is, brought up to speed and ensure that all our primary healthcare centers are functioning, that's also going to create jobs. Our tourism, if we do it well, is going to create jobs. So that's how jobs are created. So what we are going to do is to ensure that our HEARTS project is, followed to the T, and, and by doing that, you be sure that people are going to get jobs. But don't expect me to sit here and tell you, when I come, we'll create 100,000 jobs. What I'm going to tell you is that when we do all the things that we've said we'll do in our HEARTS project, jobs will come.
Okay, it will be nice, but I mean, I understand what you're saying about, politicians, typical politicians coming on and just reading numbers, but there's actually nothing wrong with a candidate having a good, solid plan that he or she can say, this plan, we intend to deliver X number of jobs. So I don't think personally that there's anything wrong with that, because I think Conservatives are very interested, considering that high unemployment is, a huge problem in the state. But you didn't address the question of, okay, so I guess that person talked about why they're taking their calls. But let me expand that. So I guess my question would be, and of course, as a candidate, you can't be expected to take all the calls from everyone coming in. But my question to you is, what type of governor would Efiom Okokon be? And I'm not talking about policy, I'm talking more about style and tone of governance.
Okay. Efiom Okokon is going to be a governor that will allow people with positive initiative thrive. I'm going to be a governor that will listen to the people. And how are you going to listen to the people? You are going to be available to the people. Available to the people is not, there's a work-life balance. As a governor, I'm also a private person. I have a family that I'm going to, attend to. You don't expect me to be governor 24/7. There are people at home that actually need me to be a husband, a father, and all that. But what we are going to do is this. Every month, and you can, since this is recorded and it's being streamed live, you can even, take me up on this. Every month, we are going to have a chat with the governor, where people, uncensored, will call us and tell us what they think, what we are doing wrong, what we are doing right, and what we need to reinforce. This is going to happen because I don't see that happening enough. So that is what I'm saying. The governor is going to be available to the people. We are going to have an email platform. We are going to have social media presence. So these are things that we are going to do to ensure that the governor, because one thing I notice is that when as you get up there, you are kind of like insulated from the people. Most times what you're hearing is what your aides are telling you. Oh, you're doing well, sir. You're doing well. Carry go, and you are kind of like removed from the people. So when we have these monthly interactive sessions where all the commissioners will sit down, people call in, maybe we'll partner with you and all that, to ensure that we have this kind of show where people call in, sending their questions, and we understand where the direction of the people's minds are. Because the Social Democratic Party is one of social justice, and we are a party that our ethos basically is working for the people. So you cannot be a member of the Social Democratic Party, even as a candidate, and you now want to say that you are not going to listen to the people. So these are ways that we are going to listen to the people. Because, and I know this is not a campaign, but my deputy governorship candidate, Comrade Dan Obo, is somebody that is known to, in Cross River State as a youth mobilizer. He has always been with the people. So even if I don't answer calls, like my person said, Dan Obo's phone is always open, so that's what we are going to do. We are going to have interactive sessions monthly with the people. We are going to have our Twitter account. We are going to have our Facebook account, and we are going to partner with organizations like the Cross River Movement to have this session so that people can actually have conversations with their government.
Okay, Comrade, thanks very much. So I'm conscious of the fact that we are in the last half hour of the interactive session. As I did promise you, the time goes by very quickly.
Yes, actually.
It does. So just as a reminder, we'll throw open the last about 15 minutes to people who would like to ask questions. So if you're on the Zoom call and you would like to ask a question, we would unmute you and give you the opportunity to ask that question. So you can just indicate by raising your hand, just as Mr. David Eaton has done. Okay, so I'm jumping back to the Slido platform where we have live questions coming in. Jide O is asking, he says, God bless your vision and ambition for the state. How are you planning to overcome the endemic corrupt governance system? So, of course, corruption is a huge issue in Nigeria. Cross River State is no exception. How do you intend to deliver governance? How do you intend to deal with the issue of corruption, which is a huge obstacle in delivering anything meaningful?
Yeah. I always tell people that leadership is from the top. If the governor is corrupt, everybody under him will be corrupt. You cannot be a corrupt governor and expect people not to be corrupt. So what we are going to do is to ensure that our government is accountable. And we are going to ensure that no matter who you are, we have zero tolerance for corruption. And we are going to ensure that we run an open government where people can actually see what's coming to the state, what was given for what project. Like I said, we are going to have a monthly interactive session with the people where all the commissioners will sit, with the local governments and all that. Even though the local government people, we intend to give them independence, but we are going to ensure that they sit there so that when we are talking, and they are saying, oh, this thing has not been done. We say, okay, we gave so amounts to this local government. Oga, answer your person. What did you do with the money? And if it's found out that that person has misappropriated anything, we will ensure that the government, the right consequences are meted out to that. So this is not something that has to be debated. Cross River State does not have the money or the patience with people that are corrupt. So our regime is going to be having zero tolerance for corruption. We are not going to start with all the, I know people say this, but that's what we are going to do. Zero tolerance for corruption, and you can hold us on that.
Okay, comrade, thanks very much. We have another question that's come in on the radio, and I regret that this question did not come in when we had the PDP candidate, because I think this is a great question that I'd like to put to every candidate vying for this position. The question is, with the poor state of our library, what modalities are you going to put in place to achieve the modernized educational plan you have for Cross River State? I think, let me redirect this question to the library. The library in Calabar is derelict. It's derelict. It stands there as a monument of shame and embarrassment to the people of Cross River State. What would you commit to doing about the library?
One of our 6 points agenda is education, and the library is very key. It's a low-hanging fruit for us because every place we go to and we talk about education, the library is always mentioned. So it's a low-hanging fruit. So what we are going to what we are going to commit to doing is that the library is going to be one of our 100-day projects. We are going to pump in money there, revamp the library, bring it to the standard that it's supposed to be, and modernize it. And we want the library to be like a mecca of sorts for young people. We are going to have free internet services there. So once you're around the library area, you are going to have, free internet service so that people can gravitate towards there. People can actually, go there and read. We don't want a library that is stuck with old literature. We want a library that has the old literature down to the present. We want a library that has modern day computer systems that are connected to the internet, that people can come and do their researches. We want a library that people of Cross River State can be proud of. And the only way we can do this, and because this is part of our educational drive, is to ensure that the government deliberately funds that project. You need to prioritize. Cross River State does not have all the resources in the world. So we always have to prioritize. And education is a priority, like I told you. So the library is key. So one thing you can can take this to the bank and say, you said this on this program on the 25th day of September, that one of your 100-day projects is going to be the revitalization of that library. And we are going to answer you to that. So that's one of our pet projects.
Great. We have a question online from David Etem. What is your understanding of the Cross River Growth and Development Strategy? So just to give you, Cross River State is a state that has invested some level of resources over time in developing plans, and the GDS is a 30-year growth and development plan for the state. I don't know if you are aware of it. If you are, the question would be, is that going to serve as some sort of a guiding framework for your government, or do you have another plan?
I read that document, and I have to say kudos to the people that put that document together, because it was really detailed. Has a 30-year plan on even how to create jobs for people down from ICT to even the public transportation system. And I feel that documents like that are a veritable resource for any government that comes into power. I have the soft copy, and it's one of the documents that I hold dear in my own private library. So it's a document that we are going to work with. Like I said, government is a continuum. It's not because somebody else did it. If it's a good job, take it on. So it's a document that we are going to use to actually, fashion our projects and plans together with, we have our own plan, but that document is gold, if I must say. So we are going to work with it.
Okay, I have to ask you this. I asked the candidate from the People's Democratic Party. So Cross River State over the years has built what we can call world-class facilities. So we're talking about TINAPA. We're talking about the International Conference Center. We're also talking about the Obudu Ranch Resort. These are world-class facilities. They could stand up anywhere in the world, but we struggled to make a success of any of these facilities. Now, if you come in as the next governor of Cross River State, what do you plan to do for each of these three facilities that I've mentioned?
And foremost, we are going to partner with the private sector. That's first and foremost, because it has been proven that the state cannot run those facilities optimally. So we are going to partner with the private sector. We are going to bring in people that have an idea. The state had a vision when it brought in TINAPA. So we are going to bring that vision on the table, bring partners that can buy into that vision, and we ride with it. Yeah, that TINAPA took a lot of hits during the NSAS protest. So we are going to have, a kind of tough sell, because the person will have to actually revamp the place, renovate and all that. But we are going to work with that. We are going to work with the private sector on that. Then you talk about the cattle ranch. It sells itself. It sells itself. So it bothers me that this is a place that we had airlines like aero contractors running like weekly flights to the airstrip there, because of the traffic that we used to have, that now nobody goes there any longer. So what we're going to do as a government is that we're going to bring in the private sector. That's part of our tourism drive, like I said. So we'll bring in the private sector, sit on the table, come up with the best business model to run those facilities, so that we can take Cross River State to the place that it's actually supposed to be, because we are tired of being a state that is potentially great. We want to actually be great. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay. Comrade, I have to ask you this. There are people, many people who believe that the race for the governorship of Cross River State is a two-horse race between the PDP and the APC. What is your response to that?
My response to that is that they are living in the past. My response to that is that they have some sort of Stockholm syndrome, where the people that have been abusing you for 24 years are the ones that you think will rescue you. If people have been there for this long, since 1999, And when they are calling their resume, they tell you, I was a local government chairman, I was a this, I was a that. They've been running this government, and the government is here. And you feel that these are the people that will save you. No. So that's a Stockholm syndrome. And a second thing is that you are not reading the Times. You are still, what they feel is that, they look at you like when I enter the room, most times they ask you, you want to be governor? You must have stolen money somewhere, because this is, you need money, but if that is the idea that you have, that means you're not in the present. There are a lot of people that are tired of the old system. And Social Democratic Party is the party that you're going to swear in 2023. So whether you like it or not, whether they think that is APC, PDP, they're not listening to that, because one thing you have to understand is that when you are going to, power is never given. Power has to be taken. So if you are going to listen, in fact, the people that are telling you that are actually people working for those people, but the average man on the street knows that this is an open horse race, and SDP is the winning horse. In fact, our logo is the horse. So, I mean, we are galloping to the finish line. No brooms, no umbrellas, just galloping to the finish line.
I love that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open it up to, there are a few hands raised. So let me give Mr. Efiom the opportunity to ask his question or put his comment across.
Thank you, Mr. Okokon. I actually have two comments or questions. So my worry from listening to you a little bit, I'd like to ask a little bit what your experience has been, what is your experience in public service? Because my worry is that from listening to you, some of the things you have said, if you had more accurate information, you may have modified somewhat or answered differently because of the information you would have. Most probably that information would come from some experience you already have, because, they say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think one of my favorite quotations is from the famous boxer, Mike Tyson. He says, everybody or every boxer has a plan until he gets into the ring and gets punched in the face. So what I'm trying to say is that our public service record littered with many people who were sincere and tried to effect changes, but because of the lacked experience about what was going on, they were unable to effect any change. I'll throw one in quickly. Mr. Bola Ige, who said he was going to deal with power in 2 years, and we all know what became of that. So not everybody who has tried and failed has failed because they were not sincere or they didn't try. It's because of, there are some things that you would only learn from experience. And so I want to ask you, what experience are you riding on to aspire to and perform as the governor of Cross River State? That's one. I'll throw in my second one just a little bit quickly. I will steal the second one. I heard you creating jobs, and I know that there's a place for public-private partnerships, which is great. I support. But, the school of thought of the most successful job creators will tell you that the place of government in business is actually regulation, regulating and not competing with the private sector. Some of the reasons why companies and industries have exited Cross River State in the last few years is because government is competing with them. And sometimes even when you partner with the private sector, you're actually competing with others. And what government has to do for that school of thought is to regulate, use the instruments of regulation to create a level playing field and maximize the attraction of the private sector to create opportunities for its people. So I would like you to comment quickly on those two things I've mentioned. Sorry to have taken so much time.
Thank you, Mr. Odefiom.
Okay, thank you, sir. When people ask about this, when you talk about public sector, I know they are talking about political experience with the state government or some political appointments. Let me give you a short story. When the Malaysian Airlines, was going through problems. They were bankrupt. They were about to go down. And they needed somebody to change their fortunes. They didn't bring a pilot. They did not bring someone that had airline experience. They brought an accountant. And what the person did was he turned around the company in less than a year. And when people asked him, you never worked in the airline industry, how could you change these things? What he told them was that everything boils down to Naira and Kobo. What you do is the part that is not making money, you cut it off. The part that is making money, you reinforce it. So what I'm trying to say basically is that when people, come to me with this public service experience, what have the people with this, your experience, done for you? That question is never really answered, because people that have come in with this experience have not done anything. So what you want us to do is to keep on with that negative experience. And one thing you need to also understand is this: governance is not Efiom Okokon and Sons. Governance is a collaboration between me and a whole lot of people. There are people that have been in the civil service, because the civil service is actually the engine room of the government. So we need to ensure that the capacity of our civil servants and the institutional memory is maintained. Yes, I'm somebody that has an idea and has a direction, but you cannot expect that even if I had that public service, this political experience that you're talking about, I on my own cannot be the person that will change Cross River State. It's a teamwork. But what I'm saying to you is that the people that you are saying that have this so-called experience, what have they done over the years? And we know this saying of, if you keep doing something over time and it's not giving you a different result, and you keep doing it expecting a different result, then, So what we are saying is that, yes, we do not have the experience that people always say, that's coming to sit down in government, and doing yes sir, and get promoted across the ladder until it gets to my turn to be governor. No, but we have other experiences. And what Cross River State needs is something different, something new. And we are bringing something new to governance. And that something new is the experience we have in running public sector companies that work, running private sector companies that work, and also running civil society groups that work. So I'm not going to tell you that I have government experience because I was a commissioner or I was a local government chairman. No, that's not what I'm going to tell you. But what I'm telling you is that we, as people, will come to that place with a plan, with a team to change things. And that's what we want to do. And you are talking about government not having any business in government. I still do not accept that, because I believe, and this is my own view of governance. There are different economic postulations. Some people will say, oh, they are Marxists. Some people will say they are the other ones and all that. But the issue is this: the government cannot leave its economic power solely to private individuals.
Okay, comrade, let me stop you, because I think you've made the point. Yes. So just so that we can give others opportunities to questions through. So I must ask you this, because it was asked to the previous candidate, and a few people were quite interested. What is your plan for gender equity? Yeah. What's your plan for gender equity? And also, if you can talk about, someone talked about the rights for these people with disabilities. So if you can just comment briefly, if you can keep your remarks on that to a minute, that would be appreciated.
I always believe that women do not want to be pitied, and handed things. So what our government is going to do is to ensure that women have a level playing field. Cross River State has been known to, support women. So what we are going to do as a government is to ensure that if a woman is qualified for a role, she's not going to be cheated out of that role just because of her gender. We are not going to hand over things to you because you are a woman, the same way we are not going to hand over things to you because you are a man. What we are going to do is to ensure a level playing field for the woman, equitable distribution of appointments and wealth for the woman, and protection of the woman. because the woman needs protection, whether you like it or not. So that's what the government is going to do. And on the people living with disabilities, we are going to make policies that will ensure that they are included in our things, our educational policies, even simple things like the public service, public institutions will have the normal ramps for wheelchairs, all these tiny things that people do, and these things are just policy based. Once we put those policies in place, we ensure that people living with disabilities do not feel left out of governance.
All right, thanks very much. We have two more hands raised, so I will unmute Enobo Ekanem. If you can, please show your video. If you can put your video on, if you don't mind. Or let me go to David Etim while you're sorting out your video. So David, please.
Okay. To the candidate, I want to commend your responses to quite a few questions. My name is David Etim. I'm the Deputy President of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce. So we are partners with TCRM on this project. Now, I want to ask you the same question I asked the PDP candidate last time. Taking into consideration, and because our private sector, we are focused more on your views towards the economy and how to turn the economic situation of Cross River State around. So my question will be strictly focused on that area. Now, taking into consideration that the federal government is basically insolvent today. I'm happy you are a banker, so you understand the issue of insolvency. Now, Cross River State is a state government that is heavily dependent on federal allocation. But yes, we all know we have a lot of potential in terms of potentials to generate income. Cross River State and Lagos State are the only two states in Nigeria that have 3 international exit corridors where you have land, sea, and air. No other state in Nigeria has it. Cross River State also has the landmass that is greater than both Ogun State and Lagos State put together in terms of landmass. So if you want about landmass, we have it all in Cross River State. We only have a population of about 4.5 million people. So if we get Cross River State right, theoretically speaking, we should be better off than Dubai.
Yeah.
Okay. If Cross River State is doing the kind of GDP that Lagos State is doing, with only 4.5 million people there, everybody is a millionaire.
Yeah.
And we have 0 unemployment. Okay. Now, Cross River State doesn't have the money to get there. Nigeria doesn't have the money to get Cross River State there. But you have certain strategic infrastructure already. You've spoken very surfacely about partnering with private sector. Yeah, it's a cliche today, but I would like you to drill down further from a perspective of somebody, like you say, you have been in public service, working in NNPC. You have been in Zenith Bank, so you've been in the private sector. You're also running an NGO. I would like you to give us more meat, something to bite on. So far, you've talked very nicely, but nothing to bite. I want you to give me something to bite as organized private sector to say, okay, yes, this guy understands the issues of the state. This guy understands how to physically lift the state from where it is to where it should be, okay? And like I said, this is a question I've asked to the first candidate, and I intend to ask all the candidates. So, you now have a bit of expo from the other guy's answer. Maybe you can add a little bit to it. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
David, thank you. Comrade, please, I am very conscious of time. So,
okay.
Ask for a lot of depth, but if you can just manage to give as much depth as you can within the next 2 minutes, please.
Okay. All right. So basically, like you said, Cross River State has a lot of debt. So what are we going to do? Like I said earlier, we do not have the funding, but we are going to bring in the private sector. How are we going to bring in the private sector? We cannot bring in the private sector to businesses that are moribund and do not make sense, because you as a private sector person, you need to make money out of your investment. So what we are going to do is to ensure that we are bringing in the private sector, apart from partnering with our business, is actually also partnering with our revenue generation. Because what Lagos did, the Lagos you mentioned, what Lagos did was they brought in a company, Alpha Beta. And what that company did was to ensure that all revenues in Lagos, I know there are a lot of political speak about that. I don't want to go into that political speak about who owns Alpha Beta or anything. But what that company did, which is what we'll do with the help of your team, is to ensure that all revenues that are, that are supposed to be for the state government comes to the state government. When we get that, we are sure that we are not bleeding from somewhere. The government, our internal generated revenue is going to be ramped up. When that is ramped up, we can now come to the table, because you cannot come to the table and want to partner with a private man and say, bring 100% of your money. No, you need to come and ensure that you are getting the revenue that you deserve. You are not wasteful. Because if you are bringing the private sector businesses are run differently from public sector businesses. So what we need to do as a government is to ensure that we have fiscal responsibility. I said this severally. We need to be, fiscally responsible. We need to show the private sector that we are not going to switch on them, because political risk is one key economic risk that private sector people always watch out for. If we are going to have policy somersaults, nobody's going to come. So these are the things we are going to put in place. And when we put these things in place, we are also going to ensure, like I said, to ensure that the tax regime is reviewed downwards. Because most private sector companies are leaving Cross River State. Why? Because the tax regime is so cumbersome. Today, one local government is coming to pay this levy. Tomorrow, another person will don a reflective vest and tell you are paying this. So what we are going to do, we are going to streamline our revenue collection to ensure that all revenues that are supposed to accrue to Cross River State is given to the state. We are also going to ensure that we stop wastages and leakages in all forms and ramifications. Then we are going to bring in the private sector with proper policies that will ensure that they thrive and they can have confidence in partnering with the state. So that's what we are going to do. Then we should not forget that as a government, we are also a political system. Things like our port, you and I know that port is not running optimally. Why is it not running optimally? There's a little bit of politics in it. So a government of Cross River State has to play the national politics and ensure that the Cross River port works. It's not working. That's why Lagos is still congested, but there's the politics to it. I know this is not what we are going to discuss. Maybe when I'm having a one-on-one session with the Chambers of Commerce and Industry, we can now drill down further, because there are a lot of things that we cannot say it here. They gave me 2 minutes. But when we sit down with you to talk as economists and business people, then we can drill down further, sir. I hope that satisfies you.
All right, I think that would have to do. Thanks very much. We will take the last question from Enobong Ekane. Enobong, please, the floor is yours. If you can put your message 30 seconds, and then the candidate maybe can answer it in 1 minute, and then we'll wrap up the interactive session.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, my name is Enobong, and my question is very, very quick. Actually, 2 questions. First of all, I don't know if transportation is part of the things you're looking at. From me now, I'm actually from Oron, so I'm just a sort of not a major stakeholder, but just behind you there. I want to get to Calabar from Oron. Most times I have to go through Calabar, which would take me 2 to 3 hours. Is there any plans of your administration to look into sea transport? That's 1. 2, tourism seems to be a major thing for you. So I also want to find out if you're open to partner with other states, maybe like you want to make yourself #1 tourist destination, or you want to be known as the tourist state. You have a lot of other tourist attractions. Take, for example, in Kebbi State, you have what they call Agongu Fishing Festival. If you have in Lagos State, you have your festival. Would the administration be open to partner with such people or such states on any level? Is it just tourism? Would you just be promoting tourism in Akwa Ibom State or in Nigeria as a whole?
Comrade, over to you.
You took us to Akwa Ibom State, your state.
I think she meant Cross River.
All right. So what we are going to do is, of course, we are open to partnerships. We are open to profitable partnerships with other states. And you talked about the what do you call it? The water transportation. I'm aware that there are a lot of people that are already running that privately. I don't think that the state government will actually, maybe in the short term, go and get vessels and all that. So what we are going to do is to ensure that those people that are running there, we sit down with them, have an interactive session with them, even before we come into government, and understand what they need. Because I see the kinds of boats they use. Sometimes I'm even scared, like, now, wow, people have confidence to sit in these canoes from Calabar to Oron. So what we are going to do, we are going to, if it's that, we are going to have some sort of funding arrangement, some sort of security with them, so that route that people always follow, is made more viable and safe and secure for people. So that's what we are going to do. We'll partner with other people on our tourism, and we'll ensure that we develop our water, our transportation. After all, we are Cross River, so we have a lot of water, so we cannot do without making that work for our people. Thank you, Enobo.
All right, thank you very much. So we have here Mr. Johnson Eboko, who is from the Cross River Economic Summit Organization. I will invite him to make his, just give us some brief closing remarks. But before he does that, I want to make a personal appeal to everyone who is on this conversation and anyone who's listening to us via whether it's a radio or Facebook or whatever. Please visit our YouTube channel. If you think that what we're doing is giving value, visit our YouTube channel and please subscribe to our channel. It will help us grow and give greater visibility to what we're doing. And I'll ask that of everyone who is on this conversation. There are 49 people here, and I want our subscription to go up by 49. Okay, Mr. Eboko, please. Over to
you. Thank you so much, Iso. Good evening, everybody. And I want to say a special thank you to Comrade Efiom Okokon. I think he has left. I don't know, he's having some issues. Anyway, let me, on behalf of the consortium of partners that is working with the Cross River movement, I want to thank you guys for this opportunity to drill down some of the candidates that are running for the governorship seat of our state. The Cross River Economic Summit Organization is a non-profit, non-political public policy advocacy organization. And the key vision that we have is to do everything that will drive prosperity in our state. I'm happy that the Chamber of Commerce have asked some key pertinent questions that, talk about productivity. It is our desire that all the governorship as candidates will give us their manifestos so we can drill down even more as the campaigns begin. So once again, I want to thank you for this opportunity and thank all those that have, sacrificed their time to be here. I hope the conversations will continue. So once we are done with all the other candidates, I think we should begin to drill down on clear frameworks as to how they intend to do what they say they will do. On that note, I thank everybody and I thank the Cross River movement for this noble partnership. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson Eboko, thank you very much for your brief closing remarks. I'm just going to run through a couple of announcements before bringing this interactive session to a close. So if you're not registered with us, the Cross River Movement, please do so by visiting our website, www.crossrivermove.com. And we're not-for-profit, non-political, rather non-partisan organization. We've got a strong focus on delivering, making sure that we get good governance in Cross River State. So if you identify with these objectives, you'd like to be a part of what we're doing, please go ahead and visit www.crossrivermove.com and sign up. And if you'd like to volunteer for us, indicate that as well, or reach out to myself or Mrs. Ebigwai, and let us know, and we'll be happy to have you on board. Would like you to visit and engage with us on social media. You will find us at Cross River Move, whether that's on Facebook or Twitter. And I'm happy to say that our next Ask the Candidate interactive session will take place on the 9th, Sunday, the 9th of October. And that will feature Pastor Usani, the governorship candidate of the People's Redemption Party. On that note, let me very much thank the candidates today for coming on this platform and for sharing his vision and taking questions from Cross Riverians. Comrade Efiom Okokon, thanks very much. And on behalf of the Cross River Movement and everyone else on this interactive session, I'd like to wish you and your team the very best as the campaign season starts this week. So thanks very much for joining us, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. All right. On that note, I want to wish everyone a lovely whatever is left of your weekend, wherever you are. Thanks and God bless.
Thank you.